Okay, and we're live. Great. Hi, Robin.
Hi, Cory.
Thanks for joining me tonight to talk about CBD and your new advocate community on Dogley. I'm so excited to not only talk about your community but learn more about CBD because I know a lot of people have a lot of questions, but we have our own questions as well. So I'm so excited to learn more about CBD, about you, about your community. So thank you for taking the time.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So while people are joining, I thought we would just do some really quick intros. So for anybody that doesn't know, I'm Cory from Dogley. My mom and I started Dogley together a couple years ago, and I am so excited to have Robbin with us tonight. So Robbin is the newest advocate to join our advocate communities on Dogley, and she is the co-founder of 1 Minute Cannabis. And for anybody who is just joining, I put the link to Robbin's community on Dogley. It's above, and I think it's also going to be in the comments below. So you definitely have to check out everything that she's already shared in her community. I can't tell you how clear and easy it is that you've made things so clear and easy to understand. I think CBD can be kind of sometimes it can feel like a really complicated or overwhelming topic with so many different opinions and things going on and being written about. So you've broken things down in a really clear and succinct way. So thank you for that. But so everybody definitely check out everything that Robbin has already shared in her community. This is just the beginning. And we've also posted a code for anybody who wants to join her community as well. So you can get free month access for free using code free month. So that's all written in the comments as well. But I thought I would love to learn more about you before we dive into the questions that I have. Your background is so interesting to me. So would you mind talking a little bit about what you were doing before and how you got into all of this and starting with people and getting into pets, and how did you come to be in the CBD world?
How did I come to be in the CBD world? I came to the CBD world through the cannabis world, but even before that, I was in technology from the time I was about 18 years old, when people didn't even know what software was, much less a personal computer.
Right.
And spent a good amount of time in that arena, building up on the marketing end of technology companies. And that was a wonderful career and a wonderful time. And cannabis was always part of our life, meaning my husband and my life. And here in California, a lot of people don't realize that cannabis has been legal for 23 years, not just 3. Wow. So we passed a law in 1996 making cannabis legal for medicinal purposes. And in 2007, my husband formed what was called a collective, where cannabis could be sold legally for medical purposes. And I started helping him out. And this was his passion. This was his area of expertise, and everything from cultivation to manufacturing to running a store. And I started helping him out. And as I'm behind the counter, I'm realizing, I know a little bit about pot, but I don't know much about medicinal cannabis or marijuana. Mm-hmm. So I immersed myself because I love to learn. I love data. I love information. So I wanted to learn more about this plant and what it's really about. And the more I learned, the more first I became very infuriated. Why is this plant illegal? And the reasons why it became illegal were very apparent to me. And I never tried to push that on anybody. I always say, go read this and learn, come to your own conclusions as to why this plant became prohibited in 1937. Mm-hmm. But the bottom line is that the people that were coming to us were truly looking for the therapeutic value of the cannabinoids. And so the more I learned, the more I, like I said, became infuriated. And then the more I became convicted to help people, number one, move past the stigma, number two, get positive results. So I went and listened. Back then, there weren't a whole lot of resources for us.
Yep.
like we have today. I mean, most companies didn't even have a website because they didn't want to be found. And so I read every book I could find. I talked to any practitioner who would let me listen to him. I was very fortunate to learn from some true industry pioneers and true medicine makers. Understanding the compounds and the composition of this plant was key to that education. And of course, the endocannabinoid system, which we'll talk about a little bit more. But and I learned, more importantly, from the customers that we were helping. So I always told people, we're learning from both sides of the counter here. So people would come in with a specific complaint, a specific level of experience. We'd recommend a product. We'd give them, okay, here's what worked for the 3 people before you, start here, and solicit that feedback. So over time, we created best practices for how to go about using it. And over time, we applied what we learned to pets, because we all have the same physiological system, this endocannabinoid system. And people started asking about their pets. And then, of course, I had my own story, with my dog, Pika, which, she's been gone 8 years, but what a difference it made in those last few years of her life. And so that's where I'm at. And I feel very lucky that I am able to do this, for a quasi living, I guess you could say, and helping people along this journey. And whether it's for themselves, again, or for their dog, or for their kitty cat, or even a horse, can benefit from this. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. I love that it's really all just about helping people and their pets live better.
Yes.
Like through education and it's so cool to not only feel better, but to then like learn about like why this worked and why maybe that didn't work, and
Mm-hmm.
and be testing things and trying things. And then I'm sure for you to be seeing the results, like seeing people feel better and their pets feel better, like it just must be so fulfilling.
Yes.
And then to be able to sort of repeat that and take what you learned from this person and then do it or pet and do it with somebody else, like so cool. Oh, I'm so excited to learn so much more from you. Can we talk a little bit about your community and what you're going to be sharing? So for anybody that doesn't know about the advocate community, so we launched this like world basically a couple of months ago. We really wanted to we were having a lot of questions with our own dogs, and we saw everybody else was kind of having, whether it's training, wellness, talk, like everybody seems to have a million questions when it comes to CBD and which products are right for their dog and all of that. And so we wanted to bring together a ton of really smart people to help all of us just basically not only feel better, but like worry less when it comes to questions or decisions we make for our dogs. And so I'm so happy that you're now a part of this world, and that we can all learn from you on an ongoing basis. So if you haven't checked out Robbin's community yet, basically she'll be sharing research and things that you can obviously speak more to exactly what you're going to be sharing, but it's basically a place where you can subscribe to her and you'll always get everything that she's sharing in your email box whenever she shares, and you can ask her questions and all of that. So I highly recommend everybody subscribes to your community. But do you want to talk a little bit about like what you're going to be talking about and what people can expect in your community?
Sure. And again, I'm very happy to be the first CBD advocate
yes.
On Dog Food, and because it is an important topic, and it's everywhere. 10 years ago, I couldn't give CBD away. 5 years ago, I watched the price triple. Today, like I said, there are literally thousands of products. My head spins.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to be able to share a lot of, again, there's a lot, there's 12 years of information in my head. Every year I say I'm going to write that book, and maybe 2020 will be the year. But so there'll be lots of great, easy to digest pieces of information. And if you look at the community now, what you'll see is I tried to put it in kind of an order. So if you start at the bottom and you work your way down, or you start at the bottom and you work your way up, it's kind of a chronology there, a reverse chronology of what you should know. So each piece will build on the next is the idea there. And so I plan on continuing to build on that. Again, we have lots of anecdotal data, lots of observational data, but contrary to public opinion, there's a lot of research, and some of it is people oriented. There's a lot of lab rat work that goes on in mice as well, but it's all relevant data. And we do have a lot of research, published research studies specifically for dogs. So I'll be breaking those down and sharing that information in there, because there's, you know, some key conditions that we see, especially in the dog community or the canine community. I'm also going to be talking, I love to dispel myths. So, there's the Mythbusters, and then there's the CBD Mythbusters, and not just CBD, but THC. So there's a lot of, again, information out there that might be misleading, or the headline might be sensationalized. There's a lot of hype around CBD. So my goal is to, help you work through that and sift through it and find out what's real and what's not real. Everybody has the best, the purest, the cleanest product out there. And I can teach you how to dig in and actually find out for yourself which one is right for you. Because just like if you go into a grocery store and you buy an apple, are you looking for a number 9, a number 4, or a number 3? What's important to you? If you want that organic apple, it better have that number 9 at the beginning. And so depending on what's important and where your comfort is what's in that product is really key. So we'll be breaking down products, we'll be breaking down research, we'll be sharing stories. We have, literally thousands of people stories, hundreds of animal stories. And then we want to solicit, just like I've done over the years with my existing clients, I want to solicit feedback from you all and say, what are you looking for? What questions do you have? What was your success, or what was your not success? And what can we do to get you to success?
I think so.
And there's one more thing that I'm really excited about, because this is something I've been wanting to do for some time. And thank you to Cory and Jane for giving me the kick in the butt. Get motivated about it is I'm going to be hosting a monthly CBD chat, where we'll basically get on a forum like Zoom, and we'll be able to, there'll be a little bit of a presentation, a very short information of the week, let's call it. And then it'll be a free form Q&A. Yes. Because I find there's a lot of value in the person next to you who asked the question that maybe you didn't think to ask, or they have a different perspective or a unique way of using cannabis that, hey, we didn't think about that before, and what a great idea that could be for the next person.
Yes, I love learning from each other as well. And I love the breaking down the products too, I think is going to be so helpful. That is one thing. I know it's a little when we go to some of these trade shows and anything like that, it feels like the number of CBD brands are multiplying by the hundreds every year, it feels like. And it's just overwhelming. And like you said, everybody's making these claims that they're the best and they're the purest. And it's a lot for, it's a lot for us to even digest and try to figure out. So I cannot wait to have your help in figuring all of that out. So kind of along those lines, I have a few questions for you that I would love to dive into. The first of which is one that I see a lot of people having, sort of maybe after the fact, after they've already had experience with CBD and they've maybe had a bad experience, and it's that question of, does CBD really work? And because I think what we see is kind of what we were talking about, all these brands making these claims, people go out and buy. I know there's a quality control issue there, but also not it kind of turns you off, right? If you have an experience, if you expect to kind of have this magic change in your dog right when you give them, if it's a treat or if it's a drop, whatever it is, and then you don't see that, you have a bad experience, and then maybe you never try it again. So does CBD actually work, and how do we get through that moment of this isn't working for my dog?
Okay. So that's a really great question. And that's one that I do hear a lot for people when people come to me and they've they've tried a product or they've recently picked up a product. So first, I let people know if you get the desired result out the gate, you're very lucky. So for example, if your dog has anxiety and you need to take him to the vet, and this is you're hoping this is going to calm him down, and you give it to him and it does, you're very lucky. Most people I would tell, experiment at home first, find out where his threshold is. Let's rule out any negatives before we do that. So cannabinoids are not one size fits all. And let me just define, a lot of people confuse the word cannabinoid with cannabidiol. So cannabidiol is CBD. It's a cannabinoid that's in the plant. It's one of 144 roughly cannabinoids that are present in the plant. And what we found again is people are looking for that quick fix. We're programmed now to, I have a headache, I take a pill, the headache goes away. At least for a short period of time. With cannabinoids, it's not always that quick. And the reason is because, we have this system called the endocannabinoid system. And that's the science behind why this works. And we're all different in when and how our endocannabinoid system starts to kick into high gear. We are endocannabinoid deficient, all of us. This system exists in all animals on our planet. And there's a lot of theories as to why we're deficient. So by feeding it, what we're doing is we're helping restore balance to get there. So the people who don't get success out the gate, there's a lot of different reasons why that might be. One, it might be the wrong product for that particular dog's body. Two, it might not be what it says it is. Three, we might not be giving it right. Never put CBD in the water bowl. Never put it just in the food dish. There are specific methods for administering where, again, we shift one little thing like that. We change how we give it, when we give it, what we give it with, and all of a sudden we're starting to see the result that we're looking for. So there's really kind of three keys to this reboot of the endocannabinoid system and where it's going to work. And that's one is the right product. How do you know what the right product is? Well, that's a little bit of an experiment in some cases. And, two, consistent dosing. And then three is, observing, and a little bit of patience doesn't hurt either. So I always let people know, oftentimes I'll tell people you want to go 7 to 14 days. Here's where we're at. Here's the product we picked. Here's the suggested dosing, 7 to 14 days. And I'll get a phone call 2 days in saying,
why isn't this working?
Gotta be patient. Yeah. Give it a few more days first. As long as we can rule out negatives, we continue on the protocol. So.
And is that every day, using it every day?
Yeah, generally speaking, depending on the situation, because again, every situation is unique. So our dogs are unique, cannabinoids are unique, our endocannabinoid system is unique. And so we do have a place where we start. So there's generally, in my standard consult, you get, 30 minutes of, we go through all of the situation, what we're looking for. We pick a product, based on your comfort level, we pick a starting dose. So some people want to start very slow and very small. They're very nervous, or they know that their dog is very sensitive.
Right.
And then we titrate up. Others want to start very aggressively. We're told we only have a few days, or weeks, of life. And we're looking for, a miracle here. We're looking for just more comfort. And like in the case of my dog Pika, where we thought we had days or weeks and we were just trying to make her comfortable, all of a sudden we got 11 months. And every week we're like, is this it? Is this it? And so, it's really very independent of the animal. But generally speaking, you're dosing 2 to 3 times a day, depending on the circumstances.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't even know 2 or 3 times a day. That's great. Yeah. I think it is one of those things where, like, you buy it, you give it once or twice, and you're like, all right, what's, where's my, where's this magic potion? And how is it kind of gonna fix
magic potions on aisle 3?
Right. Yeah, exactly. But that's so good to know that it's, patience, it's figuring out the right, just like for anything, it has to be the right product for the right dog, or for that particular dog. So that is good to know that it's really just kind of like pushing through and not losing hope too early.
And honestly, we found that, when people follow our protocols, it's about a 96% success rate. So I would say easily, in crunching the data in our database, less than 4% of the time it doesn't work at all, or it doesn't get the, the full outcome that we're looking for. And again, there's a lot of variables that can factor into that, why it's not going to work or why it didn't work. So, because we're all unique.
Right, for sure. Don't mind my cat in the background crying. Sorry, it's dinner time over here, so the cat and the dog are starting to get chatty. So my other questions for you are more kind of the overarching, bigger questions that we have been asking all of the advocates when they first come into the community. But I have that one question for you because I know that is one question that we see all the time. Oh my gosh, she's so loud. We're a dog company with a cat. So my first overarching question for you is, what is your why? And that kind of, I know we maybe touched on it a little bit in the beginning, but this is something that you've dedicated your life to, and you are, coming, you have your MBA, like coming from tech and all of that, like it's, you've given your life to helping people feel better, themselves and their pets. Like, why?
I think that my why is really, I am halfway through my life, a little bit more than halfway through my life.
Yep.
And I did work in a very high-paced, high-pressured industry, for many years. I did love what I did. I did work with people that weren't always good to work with. And when I started to do this with Terry and on a people level, and I really, the satisfaction at the end of the day of knowing that you're not just making somebody a lot of money, you're helping them to be better. And again, that's, I think my big thing with cannabis is, it's not about getting high. This is about restoring balance to our body. There is a science here, and it's a very valid science. And I think that, over the years where I thought, oh yeah, I would just do this for a little while and help them out and get them started, and then I'll just move on. I kept carving out these little niches for myself in the education side of things, because in my heart, that's something that I always felt that I wanted to do. So my son just turned 26 years old, and I always told myself, oh, when he's in high school, I'll go get my PhD, because I'm a learner. I love to learn. And then when it came down to that, it was, well, what do you get your PhD in that's going to pay for itself, right? And I could never quite put my finger on it. Well, now I know that when I do pursue that, which I plan to do before I die, it's going to be in cannabinoid medicine, probably the endocannabinoid system. Wow. And I think that for me, it's a way of fulfilling something that I've always wanted to do, and that's, teach. Yep. And it's just a different angle for me to do it. I'm not in a lecture hall. I'm not in a university doing it. I'm actually one-on-one with people. And honestly, yeah, for the most part, yes, it's very fulfilling. It's very satisfying, but it's also, there's two sides to the coin, right? There's the successes, but sometimes we lose dogs. Sometimes we lose people. Sometimes we lose cats. And so that's part of the equation too. And as somebody who's very empathic, that's been a growth for me as well. But at the end of the day, as to why I do this and why I'm really particularly enjoying it with animals, is because it's just making such a huge difference. We live in such a toxic world right now. We have it coming at it from all angles, from the lack of nutrients in our food, to the toxins in our environment, to the stressors under which we live. And all those things, the dog's not worried about how he's going to pay the rent, but he's feeling how we're worried about how we're going to pay the rent. Yep. They pick up on all of our vibration, and not just individually, but collectively. And so this is just a way to help people understand and use this beautiful plant called cannabis in ways that can make them feel better, not cure, not eradicate, but help us to restore balance. And that's when I teach people about the science behind it, they really light up, because most people don't know.
Yeah, I think it helps so much to learn the science behind it too, because then it doesn't feel like this magic potion, or it doesn't feel like I think it helps to know why it's helping, or what, I think it helps to know what's going on, not to just like take something and then hope it works, and in whatever way that means. But that is so, I love your why. That's amazing. It just to like have it be so pure and so genuine, is it's so great that you're this resource now for people to not only learn for themselves but for their pets. It's so helpful to have you as a resource. And that sort of ties into my next question, which is when you chat with people, or if somebody subscribes to your community, or, whatever it is, what is that one piece of information, if they remember nothing else? And I know this is a very difficult question, especially in what you talk about, because I know there's a lot to know. But if people walk away with one like nugget of information, what would that be?
So again, that is a very tough one to narrow down to one. It's like asking me what my favorite movie is.
Right.
But I think the key thing for me is especially the majority of the people that I work with have never used cannabis in their life. Okay. And there's actually, and they always seem to be a little apologetic about it. And it's like, no, that's mostly who I'm talking to is, we've been told for 80 years that this is a dangerous drug. So it shouldn't surprise us that a lot of people have never tried it in their life. And now they're thinking about giving it to their dog. So my big thing is, number one, understand that it's not a magic pill. It's not a silver bullet.
Yeah.
There's a lot of science behind it. In fact, we have more than 30,000 published studies on the endocannabinoid system alone. We have one of my favorite books on my bookshelf is, a book with some of the published medical findings with cannabinoids that date back to the 1830s. But there's some key areas too that I want people to walk away with. I want them to understand there is a difference between hemp and marijuana, and there's differences in hemps as well. So that's part of my program. The endocannabinoid system is so important to understand, and we've kind of already touched on that. Not all CBD products are the same, and I'll share this with everyone who's listening now is, don't buy CBD on Amazon.
Yeah, for sure.
A very strict no CBD rule, and some of the products there are CBD and some of them are not. And just understanding those nuances helps you to be a more empowered consumer in making these choices, because you're the advocate for your dog. And finally, don't be afraid of it. CBD cannabis is made up of hundreds of compounds. CBD is one of those compounds.
Right.
Okay?
Right. Sorry, maybe I should be saying cannabis. Sorry if I'm saying, I'm probably using all the wrong words, and this is why I need to join your community.
But again, don't be afraid of it, because this is a plant that has hundreds of compounds. Of those hundreds of compounds, 3 can intoxicate. Okay, it doesn't mean you have to be high,
right? And
we certainly don't want the dogs high,
right.
But it's all in how you use it. And so anyway, that's a long answer to the short question of what's the one thing.
No, I know it's such a hard question, and that all of these sort of big overarching questions are just. I think it's so there's so much to know and there's so much to learn, obviously, but like it's interesting to hear kind of what your like sort of nugget is and your background and all of that. So my last question for you, and I know we're running a little bit over, so sorry to everybody for that. But my last question is probably equally as difficult, but it is. I'm sure there are many again, but if there is there one misconception that you see people either whether it's like a question that they ask you, or you see it on social media, or that you hear, however it's sort of out there, but is there one misconception that you see or hear and just want to tackle and dispel that sort of myth?
Okay, so actually that's a very easy question, Cory, and,
Perfect.
and because again, part of my job is to constantly be learning. And if I'm not learning something new every day, I'm not doing my job. I'm not doing you the service you deserve. But one of the things that I come across constantly, and very recently I came across it on a Harvard medical review blog. And people see the word Harvard and they say credible, right? And so CBD comes from hemp, THC comes from marijuana. Okay. The fact is CBD is naturally occurring in all the cannabis plants.
Yeah.
Cannabis, aka marijuana, being the same thing. The nuances of hemp and marijuana or cannabis have to do with the level of THC. But again, we have two types of hemp, so it becomes more complicated. And there's one kind of hemp that I always recommend. So that's one of the things that I like to let people know. No matter what forum I'm in, I always want to dispel that myth. Because whether you use the words hemp, pot, weed, dope, marijuana, ganja, grass, whatever name you call it, it's all right. Cannabis sativa L. That's the scientific name of the plant. Okay. And so to me, that's a big one. But can I give one more?
Yes, sure.
So in the animal world, especially dogs, and again, there's a reason dogs are the most, of all the mammals on our planet, dogs are the most sensitive to THC, and there's a scientific reason why. And so another thing I see very frequently is never ever give a dog THC. And while I'm not advocating getting a dog high, never leave cannabis out where a dog could get it, same with children. Yep. There's a difference between toxic and deadly. And THC is not deadly, but it can be very toxic. It can make your dog very sick if they get too much. In the constant small concentrations we're talking about administering the THC, oftentimes that's the difference between it worked and it didn't work. So there's products out there where they take the THC out on purpose, and they do that for safety reasons, because they want to be very careful when it's a pet labeled product specifically. Sometimes that dog needs that little bit of THC to boost that CBD. And when we switch to a product that has that tiny bit in it, that's not making them high, that's not intoxicating, it can make the difference between it worked or it didn't work. So those are my two big misconceptions that I like to work through. And it's a very personal choice when you get into this THC side of things. But again, there's very safe ways to do this and very effective ways to do this.
There is so much to learn. I could just ask you a million questions, and I'm sure you've heard them all. And I'm sure, obviously that's,
I don't think I've heard them all yet.
Or maybe you've heard a fair amount of them. But it is just so cool to now have somebody that now you're here, that you can guide us all and help us kind of navigate this world that has seemed to explode and maybe not in maybe some good ways and maybe not some good ways, and to help us be less confused and kind of less scared or nervous or worried about what to do and what's best for ourselves and our dogs. It's just amazing to have you as a resource. So thank you so much for taking the time tonight, and thank you for being a part of Dogly with us. And I'm just so excited for what's to come.
Okay, and I'm here too, and I'm so glad we're doing this at the end, right here. We're real close to the full moon, aren't we?
Yep.
Lots of good things to come in 2020. And again, I thank you and your mom for having me be part of this community. I'm really looking forward to helping more people.
Thank you. Amazing. Well, for everybody that has joined, thank you for joining us tonight. I know everybody's busy with the holidays coming up and all of that, so I really appreciate it. Definitely check out Robbin's community. It's above or below. And then, lots more to come. And I'm sure we'll have to do another live, and we'll dive into some really in-depth questions in the new year. So
that sounds great.
Thank you so much for joining. Thanks everybody for watching. And if I don't talk to everybody, have a good holiday.
Bye everyone.
Bye.